Unfortunately, in today's labor market, there's a reasonable chance that the position that you're about to apply to, or that recruiter reached out to you for that you got really excited about, isn't even real. And I know this can be super frustrating because you're spending all your valuable time and resources chasing after jobs that don't even exist when you could be spending your time building the right networks and doing the things to actually land a position. And I know that people are wondering, well, why do companies create fake jobs to begin with? And I actually created another video that you can go and check out. But in this video, I want to teach you how to spot these fake jobs so that you don't waste your time. But before we get into that, if you're interested in more career and job search related content just like this, directly from a corporate recruiter, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You may also want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. So one of the most telltale and obvious signs that a job is fake is if they tell you at the very top they have no intention of filling it. And that's what's called a pipeline rec in the industry. When I say rec, I mean requisition. In other words, a job posting. So why would a company post a pipelining job to begin with? Well, in theory, what the company is trying to do is build a candidate pool so that when they do have some job in the future, that they'll be able to react more quickly and fill the job in a much more expedited manner. The reality is, though, the position that you're applying to doesn't actually exist in the company. And in some cases, they may tell you that it's a pipeline rec, and that's probably doing you a favor. But in other cases, they won't even actually indicate it, and they'll never have any intention of filling the job. And you'll apply to it, and you basically go into limbo. And in a lot of cases, you'll never get rejected because there was never a job to reject you against to begin with. So what you want to do is read the language of the job posting very carefully, because oftentimes companies, at least ones who are above the cuff, will indicate that the position is not actually available today and that it may be open in the future. Because what they're admitting to you is, hey, this is a pipelining rec. And in those cases, you need to decide whether or not you want to spend your valuable time and resources applying for a position that you're likely never going to get called for. And in the case where the company is not telling you in the job posting, unfortunately, there's not really a good way to tell whether or not it's a pipeline rec or not. The next sign to look for is if the company seems to be ambiguous and relatively shady. In other words, I would go and look at their website and try to verify the details of the position, of the company, and of the job location that you're applying to. Because oftentimes these companies will have minimal contact information. Their email addresses may be generic or not a branded email. And if you look at the address for the corporate headquarters, it may not actually exist at all. So it might be worth doing your due diligence, cutting and pasting it into Google Maps and just doing the street view, making sure that there's actually an office where they say there's one. And of course, you want to look at the different divisions, maybe even click through some of the people who work at the company and see if they're actually real profiles. Because the companies who are set up as shells, they'll often be like whack-a-mole. One day they'll be here, the next day they'll be gone. And so if you see an opportunity that looks a little suspicious, do your due diligence before you apply to it, because chances are it's probably not a real company to begin with. You may want to check their press releases or go and Google search the name looking for company news, or check their social media and make sure that they're actually a legit company. Because if you notice that they seem to have only gotten set up in the last 6 months, it's probably a fake company and they're probably trying to scam you. And I would take this one a step further. If you learned about the job because somebody reached out to you, say through LinkedIn, verify their information as well, because oftentimes you'll see people who have very generic backgrounds or backgrounds that aren't related to the types of jobs that they're recruiting for. And unfortunately, there's a new scam going around on LinkedIn that's becoming more and more prevalent, where these fake profiles are reaching out to people with part-time job opportunities. And I've actually received several of them myself. So use your intuition here, click on the person, see if they're even working at the company, see how long their profile has been set up for, see what their work history is, click on some of those employers, just go down the rabbit hole a little bit, and you probably discover pretty quickly whether or not it's fake. The next red flag that I would look for, and this is in particular for folks who are sitting in the United States, and I'm sure my tech friends know all about this one. I would be very wary of recruiting agencies or companies who reach out to you from offshore, because oftentimes these positions will come from resume mills. In other words, these third-party companies will get a hold of job postings and then they'll try to recruit on behalf of the company without the company's knowledge or permission. And then they'll take those sourced resumes and then approach the company saying they've got the perfect fit for them, Basically, they're trying to backdoor their way into getting a placement. But I've also found that the even legitimate ones that reach out to you who really have jobs, they're usually really low quality and they're often not worth your time pursuing. Now, please, this isn't a blanket statement saying that all offshore recruiters aren't reputable, but do your due diligence and decide how you want to spend your time, and certainly don't send them any personal information about yourself. The next sign to look for that a job might be fake, or at the very least is a big red flag, is if the position is repeatedly posted and never seems to get filled. This is especially true for smaller companies who may not have a lot of headcount, but there's also a possibility it could be an evergreen job requisition, meaning that there's always a job open at the company, which in and of itself may be a red flag because they can't keep people as a revolving door. But if the position is repeatedly posted over and over again, they're either extremely picky for what they're looking for, or the position just doesn't exist and they're just collecting applications for the hell of it. Anyway, it's up to you to decide if you want to waste your time with a company who posts the same job over and over and over again, and you've been able to confirm that nobody's ever been placed into that job. Go over to LinkedIn and check out yourself. Or if the people who have been on LinkedIn, they keep on turning them over very quickly, because either way, it's probably a waste of time. The next thing I would pay attention to is if the job seems too good to be true. They may be reaching out to you for a role that you don't qualify for. Maybe it's 2 or 3 levels above you and it's got this grand title, or they may promise you things like ridiculous salaries and bonuses and or the possibility of working remote. So they kind of dangle this trinket in front of you, hoping that you'll bite on it. And certainly in the case where compensation is way out of whack with the rest of the industry, the very first thing I would be thinking is, why is the compensation so different than everybody else? What's the catch? And if there isn't a catch, it might be a fake job to begin with. So again, do your due diligence. I would say trust your gut here. And if the job seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is going to be. And in line with it, if the recruiter who reaches out to you is trying to sell you on a position and they won't disclose who the company is and they're being very vague about all the details, that's another red flag to consider, because if it's a reputable company and a reputable recruiter, they're going to share with you those details. And taking that a step further, if the job posting itself is very vague and there's not a lot of details listed on the position, or there seems to be some interesting misspellings of technologies or skills, or something just doesn't seem right about the job posting itself. Those are all things to be paying careful attention to, because those are indicators that it might be a scam opportunity and they're just trying to bait and switch you. And most importantly is, if a company is trying to get you to compensate them or share overly personal information with them, you should be extremely cautious of it. In fact, any reputable third-party agency, internal corporate recruiter, or company themselves will ever require you to compensate them in any shape, form, or fashion in order to be considered for a job. So if any company is asking you to pay in order to be placed in front of an organization or to be considered for a role there, you should run like hell. And finally, if you apply for this position or a recruiter reaches out to you and they try to interview you either immediately or they want to interview you in some unorthodox manner. For example, this recruiter may ask you to interview immediately through WhatsApp or some other third-party messaging tool, and then they'll act like they're giving you the position. In other words, it almost seems too easy to land the job. They may ask you some very generic and basic questions, and then they'll proceed to move to an offer, but there is a little asterisk here. The asterisk being is that they will often try to get you to share personal information with them, like your social security number or your bank information, in order to set up your new hire enrollment, or a common scam where they'll ask you to purchase from their catalog a list of office supplies so that you can get up and running, and that they'll reimburse you later. And of course, you never receive the office supplies and you never get reimbursed. So don't fall for those types of things. If it seems too good to be true, again, it probably is, and you have to use due diligence here. So that's how I would identify whether or not a job is fake. And it's unfortunate that we need to do this in today's economy, considering it's so hard to get a job as it is. But there's companies who are happy to waste your time. And unfortunately, there are scammers out there who prey on people in need. So hopefully you found this video to be helpful. Always stay vigilant in your job search. And if you need a little bit more help getting back into the employment market with actually reputable employers, then that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called lifeafterlayoff.com, which is loaded with tips and strategies from an insider's perspective. And I share my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses. The first one is called Resume Rocketfuel, which is designed to teach you exactly how to write a resume that is going to give you the best chance of getting noticed by recruiters of reputable companies for those first round interviews. And once you get your foot in the door, it's then up to you to market yourself effectively throughout the interview process. And that's where the ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes in. And we walk from job search all the way through each round of the interview process. We give you tips and strategies on how to ace each round and then ultimately get you to the job offer. And we teach you how to not leave any money on the table. But an even more preferable method to get a job is to have the recruiter reach out to you. And I'm not talking about these shady recruiters in this video. I'm talking about those high quality recruiters with roles that you really want with reputable companies. And that's where the power of LinkedIn comes in. And I created a course called Unlocking LinkedIn in order to teach you that. And even better, you can skip the recruiter altogether and move right to the front of the line. And again, we teach you how to do that in the course. But anyway, hopefully you found this video to be helpful and enlightening. Stay vigilant out there and make sure you don't fall for any of those fake jobs. Like always, appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.